Sardeller.
I like to get.
You so to get out the house. Oh my God. Hello?
Hey, okay,
Yep, we're in now.
right now, okay. Yeah, I went to the other link. Hey,
Hi,
Gibson,
how you feeling, man?
good, how you doing, man?
Doing well, doing well, doing well. It's good to see you, man.
You too, bro.
It's
Looking good, man.
say what?
I said you're looking good, you cut your hair.
Yeah, I got a new look.
All right.
Yeah,
Can
man,
you
we
hear
in there. I can hear you very well, actually. The lighting is good. We're all good to
Okay.
go.
All
Uh,
right.
yeah, man. So I'll start it off from now. Because I want to get a little sense for, catch up with you, in the interview as well. So before we even do that. So welcome in the shed. I have an honor to have the great Gerald Cannon with me. I've had the chance to be on stage with the great Gerald Cannon many times with the great Willie Jones. And he's someone that I look up to because I grew up watching you play, and I remember those videos with Roy Hargrove Quintet, with Larry Willis, Willie Jones,
Yeah.
and man, that stuff was really powerful, and it was crazy, the time that we met after the War Memorial. I remember we were talking a little bit and getting to know you guys and hearing the stories on the road, man. I just thought to myself, man, we got to come on here and we got to talk about all that,
Yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah,
some of
man.
it we can't talk about, but most of it we
Oh, sure. I mean, I know you're a good storyteller, so I thought to myself, this would be a great opportunity, right?
Hmm.
So to start it off, man, I know that you're always on the road, you always got something going on, and I just wanted to figure out, like, you were playing last night, right?
I was playing at Smoke with Cyrus Chestnut Quartet.
Ooh, who's in the band?
Chris Beck on drums, Stacy Dillard on soprano and tenor, Cyrus and myself. It's a
Man,
lot of fun. And tonight we have to play as well.
wow.
Yeah.
So what has that been like so far? Playing in that setting and playing like every night, with someone like Cyrus, heavy hitter. Yeah. What is that like, man? Briefly.
It was it's fun. This month has been pretty crazy. I started out this month at Smoke with Eddie Henderson for 4 nights. Then I had a week off. And then I was at the Village Vanguard with Javon Jackson Quartet. And now to wrap up the month, doing the thing with Cyrus. So I've been hitting a lot this month. And plus, I'm teaching at Oberlin Conservatory and at Juilliard. So it's like, and it's finals week and jury week and you know.
Exactly.
So,
It's
yeah,
good to stay busy though, man.
good to stay busy, man. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to get to more of that because I do think that you're one of the, major side bands, we've had in terms of bassists in the jazz kind of industry. Like you've been playing with so many different cats from all different walks of life, but also different, just different understandings in terms of the music, right?
Mhm.
Your contributions to people's music span from McCoy Tyner, to Cedar Walton. It's like you,
Mhm.
you look at you just think about that and it's like, wow, that's so many different schools, right? And that's
Yeah,
only the tip of the iceberg. I talk about Roy Hargrove.
yeah.
I want to get to that, and I want to talk about being a sideman and all that good stuff. But this is In the Shed, and so one of the first questions we like to ask is, how do you shed, man?
Well, it's different now because I'm 65 and my time is not the same as it was when I was 25. So I have to kind of pick my time. Like I'm very fortunate at Oberlin. In my office, I have Milt Tinton's bass that I get to play every day, and it's beautiful. And so I try to get in some shed time there. Um, and now I just, I bring out one of my etude books and just warm up a little bit. But the way I shed the most is by listening to
Mm.
records. As you can see, a lot of records back there. And I really study when I listen to records. I don't just listen, I'm studying. I
Mm.
study, of course, first of all, the bass players do, and it depends on which bass player I'm listening to or which record. I listen to the bass lines, and and I try to pick out the things. I try to figure out what it is that I like so much about this bass player or about the line he's playing. It's not always the obvious. That's the thing I tell my students. It's usually the little things like maybe he'll put a major third on a minor chord in a turnaround. And that'll make you go like, wow. But if you don't listen for it, you won't hear it.
Mm.
A lot of when I was younger, I would just listen for all the fancy stuff, which is definitely worth listening to. But as an overall bass player, which I'm trying to be, I have to listen to everything, how the bass fits in with the drums, how his quarter notes connecting with the ride cymbal, how his choice of notes are, enhancing the chords, or how his choice of notes are influencing the soloist, whether it be a singer or a horn, and how he just makes how the bass player just makes the whole thing feel good. It's a lot to playing the bass. It's a lot. I mean, we have to we have to do things to make things feel right. So we have to listen to everything all the time. The phrases, how my rhythmic accent is going to either help or hurt the music. When I was younger, I would do rhythmic accents because I could do them, but I wasn't really thinking about like, how's that gonna like, maybe propel the momentum, or how's that going to make everything go, you know? So
Mm.
that's why I think bass is the greatest instrument ever made, because we get to touch on each aspect of what's going on at the time.
Absolutely, man. So like In the Shed, like that one of our grounds is that, music is from the ground up, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we know in terms of you go and even schools like Juilliard, Oberlin,
Mhm.
one of the first things they do when you're studying music, they tell you to study it from the bass note, right?
Yeah,
And you have to, if you don't know what the bass notes are, you basically don't have any reference. And
exactly. Yeah,
it's like it's like a law of nature, right? Because the
yeah,
ground basically creates the context for everything
yeah.
higher, right? And I really love what you were saying about that active listening, because I think that sometimes that's an art that we've kind of lost, right? In terms
Yeah.
of back then, you know, people used to, like, how you have all those records, like
Mhm.
that's not a, you know what I mean? Like I wish it was a modern day thing, because now we just used to having our phones, just pulling
Right.
up the records. But it's like there's something about, you know, spending that time and really just listening and honing in on whatever,
Yeah.
whatever you're listening to. That way you get the most out of it. And
Right.
do you, with that like kind of collection you have, when it's time to really take that deep like focused listening, uh do you have to like sometimes go back and then like, you
Oh
know,
yeah. Oh yeah. I was just about to say I have listened to certain records for months at a time
mm,
because I want to figure out how to do that. You know, and so much with I mean, when I was coming up, we didn't have CD players or cassette players. We just had a turntable. And my brother, when I was a kid playing electric bass, his job was to man the tone arm of the turntable. You know, I
mm,
was trying to learn some electric bass lines, and I was like, pull it back. He would lift the arm up, put it down, and then he would tell me like, that ain't how it goes, you know, because he was a singer and an actor, and we were kids. We both played with my father in my father's gospel group, so he could hear this is good or better than I could, you know, and so. But now it's different. I mean, it's just so important to listen to records, and it's so important to listen to the masters. You know, like for bass players, it's like it's very important. You know who Jimmy Blanton and Oscar Pettiford are. I mean, that's where all modern jazz bass started. Started there. So you have to, and you can hear, I can hear Oscar Pettiford from studying him so long in everybody's bass line, from Ray Brown to Ron Carter. You can hear, oh, that's an Oscar Pettiford thing, even though they put it in their own language. You know, it's like your mom when you're born, you know, you're a little baby, and you know, you're laying there and your mom's going, mama, mama, and you kind of looking, and then you start to mimic that. You start to say, mama, mama, you know, and then as you get older, you kind of turn it into what you want to say. Like I used to call my mom, mom. My kids call me pops. I didn't teach them to call me pops. They evolved into the way they want to say it, and I'm okay with it. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. You have to listen and study. You know, you have to study the art of the quarter note, the length of the quarter note, you know, the sound of your bass. You know, short quarter notes can make for short ride beats, you know, and it can chop the time into a dit, 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 instead of doom, 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 doom. That doom is what you guys are listening for. You need the full length of the quarter note, you know, like if you look at it, I always use the old metronomes, you know, the wind up ones, so I can see the
mm.
quarter note. And from here to here, that's a lot of time. It's a lot of time. I don't care how fast it is. You still got from here to here, you know,
Yeah.
which is something I learned from playing with Elvin Jones. One day he told me to stop cutting off the quarter notes, Ken, and let it ring the full length. I was like, oh. You know, it's important. I mean, little things like that, which aren't little, but things like that, and a long quarter note just helps to just bring the band, put the band in a nice, comfortable, relaxed state. Doesn't feel like it's being, you know, it feels like this,
Mm.
in my humble opinion.
Man, I think that's the difference between the, you know, the mature basis, you
Yeah.
know, feeling, right? I loved where I went in terms of Elvin Jones, because Elvin Jones is someone that, you know, us in this modern period, I think that we've come to appreciate John Coltrane's music in a deeper way, right? Because,
Mhm.
you know, it's been a longer time since then. And you had, you know, the great fortune to play with Elvin Jones. And I loved what you just said about the length of notes. And I wondered, like, during that stint with Elvin, like what were some of the, you know, periods or meaningful moments that you experienced with him, and what were some of those deepest lessons, you know?
Well, that was just one of them right there.
Yeah, man, that
The
was
link
deep.
of the note, you know, and also, I mean, I was just blessed, you know, that I got a chance to play 9 years with Elvin and 14 years with McCoy. So I'm kind of in the middle of Train's rhythm section. And to just experience both sides of that, you know. One thing that I got from both of them is the whole spiritual aspect of playing this music, you know, and the whole, you know, how important it is to play the blues, because pretty much that's all they talked about. I would ask McCoy questions like, what, you know, like, man, just play the blues, just playing the blues, you know. And as far as Elvin is concerned, that, you know, I was in my 40s, I think, when early 40s when I got that gig with Elvin. And I kind of thought I knew how to play some bass, but, and I did, but I mean, but I really learned what my role is, or what the bass player, at least what he wanted the bass player to do, which, you know, it's Elvin. So, and it taught me how to really stand on my own 2 feet and trust myself and trust my time, because he depended on me doing that, you know, because, you know, Elvin's beat was so wide in the beginning. It took me like a year to kind of like really, maybe even longer, to feel really comfortable. I'm just thankful to God he liked me in that year's time where I was trying to figure out what to do, you know, or how I could be comfortable and he could be more comfortable, you know. But it was just really that whole thing about the length of the quarter note and learning that how much everybody depends on the bass player. It's you know, it's not about us, you know, and you know, we're accompanied. Everybody in the rhythm section is there to accompany you, to give you different avenues as a trumpet player that you might want to go down. You don't have to, but we can, you know, certain notes I could give you, you might want to go that way. If I hear you play a note and I can walk off that note, then you might want to just go, we're just taking a stroll down 145th Street or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a huge responsibility, but a beautiful responsibility being a bassist. You know, it's not to be taken for granted. And there's a certain level of humility that has to come with, in my opinion, playing a bass. You have to be humble because we're serving a lot of different plates there. You know, we're keeping the time, adding harmonies, melodies on top of melodies. With our bass lines, we're creating melodies. You know, we're supporting and the soloist or the vocalist. You know, we're opening up doors. You know, we're making it swing harder or swing period, you know, or whatever. And, you know, we have to be quick with our ears, you know. It's a huge responsibility, but it's like, you know, it's beautiful. I couldn't imagine playing anything else, you know. I mean, I've been doing it since I was 10. So, you know, in different genres, first gospel, then funk, and then rock and roll, you know, then jazz. Yeah.
Wow, man. You know, when you were talking about that, you literally took the words from my mouth. I was about to say responsibility.
Yeah.
You know?
But it's a beautiful responsibility.
Yeah.
Once you know, get into it, and it's like I said, it takes a certain level of humility to play the bass. You know, we're in the back, man. I like it in the back. You know what I mean? I don't want to be out front, you know. It's not where I'm supposed to be, even with my own groups, my quartets or trios, you know. I might play some melodies, okay, but I like being in the middle of things.
Yeah.
You know, and then back. Yeah.
It makes me think of that saying, with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
We have a lot of power. That's the thing. Bass players have a lot of power that's not to be abused, but to be there. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes you see bass players that are just, making faces, boom, playing loud and just, doing a whole bunch of things that aren't really related to what you're doing on trumpet during your solo. Or what the singer is singing, during when she's delivering a melody.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not saying you got to just stick to half notes, quarter notes, or whole notes. Of course, you got rhythmic accents. But at least when I try to do them, I want them to enhance what you're doing, or to give you more support in the rhythm section. You know what I mean? It's not, it's in I'm of service,
Mm.
to myself and to the rest of the band.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I look at it. And I mean, when I study bass players, Paul Chambers, Sam Jones, all these, man, you can just feel that their rhythmic accents or the things that they do, it's for the music, not
Yeah.
for them.
It's like musicality. It's like now we have to just preach. There's more musicality more than individuality, because we're in
Yeah.
a space now where, the world is set up with this individual kind of mindset, when, our goal is community, because this music is built upon community and built upon, people being in one space and learning from each other, complimenting each other,
Right.
sharing knowledge, that kind of passing on information, right? And you find that that's the way we're the strongest, right?
Yeah.
When we're in that kind of state. And I think that, like, having these kind of conversations, hopefully, hearing it from people that actually play with the masters, people like you, people like Gary Bartz, it's like
Yeah.
you start to see there's a trend, and you start to see that, wow,
Right.
we should be shifting our focus in terms of being so focused on self, and just more focus on the musical aspect, the musicality. And that's what War was about as well, right?
Exactly. And it's
You
a
know?
conversation. What is like we're having now? We're not talking at the same time.
Yeah.
I believe there's commas, periods, exclamation points, synthesis. I mean, especially in the rhythm section. I mean, we're having conversation. We're listening to what you're saying, your synthesis or whatever. We're listening to your story, through melody, you know. And there's sometimes when you leave space, in a phrase, in trumpet, I mean, we can jump in and say something, and go, oh yeah, you were right, or nothing, or we're still listening to see who else is gonna like agree or disagree with what you said. I mean, it's just a conversation. It's a beautiful, it's a beautiful conversation. I mean, it really,
Yeah.
and there's humor, there's sadness, there's all kind of stuff in the musical conversation.
Yeah. Wow, man. It's interesting because before we even move on to some of the other great artists that you played with, I also wanted, for the people, are there any stories being in Alvin Jones's band that you can share with us?
No, not really. I mean, just talking to Elvin. I spent a lot of time with Elvin. I'm very fortunate, I liked, he liked me, and we really took a liking to each other. He would call me up and say, "Hey, Gerald, come over. Keiko's cooking fried chicken," and I'd go over and we just listen to records. And, and there were many times when I was sitting with Elvin in the dressing rooms, and it was just me and him sitting there, and I'll look at him, he look at me, and we just both started laughing. To this day, I can't figure it out, but it was hilarious, you know. It's really funny. I'd be sitting there, you know. I mean, after a few years, I was with him 9 years. So after a couple of years, I kind of got over, like, oh, this is Elvin Jones, you know. And if it's like, you know, and I'd sit down next to him in the dressing room, and he'd be sitting there, and he'd like, hey, Gerald, man, baby, how you doing, Chief? And we just sit there, and he'd look at me, I look at him, and we just start laughing. To this day, I can't tell you what we were laughing about, but you know, he had this infectious laugh. So whenever he started laughing, it just would make me really laugh hard. Then he would laugh harder than we, you know. It was great.
Joyful.
It was very joyous. Same with McCoy.
Mm.
You know, when McCoy called me, well, first his manager called me, and I had heard that he was kind of looking for me because he was looking for another bass player. You know, he's kind of like, yeah, right, you know. So one day his manager called and said, hey, yes, hi, I'm so-and-so, McCoy's, you know, really interested in having you play in the band. Would you be in something? Like, yeah, would I be interested? Like, you know, yes, you know. It's okay, I'm gonna call you right back. We're gonna do a three-way call, McCoy. So, you know, I'm nervous. McCoy County's calling me, no, you know, and he called me back. And, you know, and his manager said, Gerald, I have McCoy on the other line. So I'm like, hi, Mr. Turner, you know, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, hey, buddy, you know, it's like, I was like, whoa, you know. And he said, like, yeah, I heard you play with Elvin. I said, yes, sir. I played with him for 9 years. Well, if you played with Elvin, then you good enough to play with me. Okay, work out the details with my manager. That was it.
Wow.
I was like, that's it, you know. I mean, the beauty of this music for me has been, because I've worked hard and been through a lot of stuff to get here, you know. I mean, when I came to New York, like 31 or 32 years ago, I came here with $75 in my pocket. That's it. That lasted about 10 minutes. And you know, and I worked hard to get here, playing in the street, playing in the subway, begging people to let me sit in and blah, 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 the whole thing, you know. So, you know, it's just been a blessing, man. And it continues to be a blessing, you know. Yeah, you know.
Man. Man, truly, it's such a blessing to be doing this. This is a privilege, right? To be able to play rock. You know, not a lot of people, not a lot of people get to really enjoy this experience, life, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, I'm enjoying teaching, passing on what little I know or whatever I know about playing the bass and about this music to the new crop, you know. It's so much fun. I'm enjoying it so much. Like, just, you know, being able to explain things and hopefully help them, you know, get to a nice working level, you know, and kind of try to just, you know, tell them things. I try to tell my students things so they don't have to go through some of the things that I had to go through, you know, because I probably could have sidestepped some of this stuff had I known.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Very important.
Sub owners, sometimes dealing with band leaders, sometimes, you know, just, you know, internal things, you know, things that that might have put doubt in your heart about, should I really be doing this? You know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or do I really want to do this even? Not for everybody.
Right. You know, it makes me think, because, man, the schools that you're currently teaching at, you know, they're blessed to have you. I know you're at Oberlin Conservatory and Juilliard right now, right?
Yes.
And you know, I got to catch a little bit of you at Juilliard, but I spent a year at Oberlin Conservatory as well. And you know, then Eddie Henderson was still there, who's still there now, and Gary Bart. Really hard. and
Yeah.
now you, and it's like, to me, that's like a supreme faculty.
It's great. You know,
Yeah.
it's both schools have premier faculties because you
Yeah.
know why? Because most of the people on the faculties at both schools have been able to try out their theories in real time
Mm, mm.
on the bandstand with real cats, not getting a master's degree in music and then teaching and never, have Elvin yell at you, tell you to stop cutting off your quarter notes. So, okay, so that doesn't work. You know what I mean? Or McCoy looking at you because you played some notes that you thought might have worked, but it didn't work with his chords. That's learning how, for me, that's practicing my theories in real time. Playing with Roy, one of the greatest gifts I got from playing with Roy Hargrove, because I came to New York for 2 years, then I had to go back home because I had to clean up and I had to get my head right because, New York, if your head ain't right, it'll run you out of here. It ran me out of here. I had to go and do a lot of things to get my body and my head and everything in the right frame. And that's when I met Roy. I met Roy in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, when he was playing there while I was back home getting my stuff together,
Mm.
And he said, "Man, you Gerald Ken, I know you." And I was like, "Yeah, I know you too." He's like, I said, "Look, I'll be back in New York in like 6 months, And we hung out at a jam session, as you know Roy does. I took him to a jam session in Milwaukee. We hung out all night, talked about music. And so when I came back, about 6 months, I called Roy. Actually, I was playing Roy was playing at Bradley, so I went there to see him. Of course, he acted like he didn't remember me, And I was like, "Man, get out of here with that stuff. You told me to call you when I got back." "Okay, call me. I'm gonna call you, man. I'm gonna call you." So the next time he came to Bradley's, I was on the gig with John Hicks and Idris Muhammad. And he was like, "Man, I'm gonna call you. I'm gonna have my manager call you next week." And the next week he called me.
Mm.
And that started out. But the thing I was gonna say before about playing with Roy was that really that particular band, because I was in the band when I first got with Roy, but when we got to that level, when he got to with Larry Willis and Willie Sherman and him, and sometimes Frank Lacey, when we got to that point, I was really working out my theories of harmony and of time and of groove. And in Roy's band, I felt complete freedom to try out all kinds of stuff. Plus, I had Larry Willis who played the right harmony or could play any harmony, let's put it that way. So my harmony theories, I could test out right then and there. And thank God, because, we worked all the time. So, and we played everything different every night. And me and Willis would talk on the bus or on the plane about what we were going to do to Roy and Sherman harmonically.
Yeah, I love that.
Before the gig. Yeah, we went after those guys every night, So it was a blessing that I could really try alternate changes, rhythmic things. Willie is so solid, and they tried, and Willie too. We all it was like a big science lab, really, especially in the rhythm section. And we really tried to, as a rhythm section, we really tried to open up all kind of avenues for Sherman and Roy and Frank Lacey.
Mm.
They would turn around like, "What are you doing?" We'd be like, "Turn around and worry about what we're doing back here. Just play." We used to have such a great time,
That band, man, worked heavily. Like, y'all guys were touring for how long throughout the year?
It was insane. It was insane. That's, hands down, people always ask me, "What's the best band you ever played in?" That band, that particular band, was the best band. We were a band, man, and we felt like a band. We were brothers. We treat, brothers argue and fight. We'd be on the bus cussing each other out and stuff. But we loved each other and we loved playing with each other, and we loved each other, more importantly, musically. and we trusted each other
Yeah.
musically and non-musically.
Yeah.
You know?
I remember seeing that on Downbeat, you guys got a feature for the hardest working band.
Yeah, and it
in
worked.
yeah.
Yeah, we were on the cover.
On the cover, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember I was seeing that and I was like, yeah, man, you know, especially during that time, man. Roy was on the road all the time. You guys were building a sound. Man,
Yeah.
that's an iconic band in his career as well. You know, I was talking to Willie the other time and he's telling me about, you know, the Hutch band, the Kindred Souls, another iconic quintet as well.
Exactly.
But you can see how like during Roy's career, he created all these, you know, these different group of guys that kind of created this, you know, signature sound every different configuration, you know.
That's the genius of Roy. I mean, you know, he kept evolving all the way.
Yeah.
All the way till the end, man. You know, he evolved, you know, sound change, RH Factor.
Yeah.
He started morphing off into like D'Angelo and Creasol. I was in the first Creasol band halfway through that tour. You know, I mean, playing with Cubans. I mean, you know, I got to study with like the real cats, you know, and go to Cuba and really, I mean, I've traveled, I saw the world with Roy. Learned a lot of stuff. It's beautiful. The best band I ever played in, period, hands down. You know, and
any stories?
too many to tell here. We don't have enough time.
I gotta nag you with that one.
Oh man, there's too many. I can't even, if I could just think of one, I could, you know, there's just too many, man. We had a lot of fun. One of the most memorable moments I had was recording Roy's Moment to Moment record, which we recorded in Big Sur, in a big barn with an orchestra. And the studio was owned by one of the Beach Boys, you know, the guitar player from the Beach Boys. And we spent like, I don't know, maybe a week recording. And Al Schmidt did the mixing and the mastering and the engineering. It was wonderful, you know. I mean, we used to go to Big Sur to this place called the Esalen Institute. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
Not too much, no.
Oh man. Okay, here's a quick story. Well, the first time we went there, you know, it's like a kind of a retreat for like healthy people, you know, it's all vegetarian stuff. And so we pull up in this place and you know, it's on the coast at Big Sur, California, you know, we pull in this big gates and we're going down this road and, you know, I always I think I had the biggest mouth in the band. I always talked the most stuff. Anyways, so we're in this van, we've been riding for a couple of hours, it's hot, California. And I'm like, man, this is like some kind of like, you know, commune or something, you know, I'm talking smack, you know. And you know, there's people walking around with no clothes on and stuff. I'm like, what are we playing? What is this?
Oh man.
And we played, I have a picture of us playing there. You know, we're playing on this thing with the mountains behind us and the ocean, and you know, and we're swinging like crazy, right? And there's all these people dancing with like tie-dye skirts and stuff on, doing hippie dances. It's like, okay, because music soothes the savage beast, you know?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. But it was a funny situation. The first time we went there probably every year for about 4 years. And then it was just beautiful.
Man, music is interesting, you know. I wonder in their own way, they felt the dance, you know?
Yeah, they felt the spirit.
They felt the swing, yeah.
Yeah, man, the spirit, you know, it's like, doesn't matter.
Right.
You know?
I wish more people had that freeness, you know, in terms of when they hear the music, you know, and not to be so sterile and, you know,
yeah,
concert, you know.
Yeah.
it's meant to be, felt, and and so
Yeah,
yeah, and however you want to express that, if people were more free to doing that, I think
yeah,
that would make the jazz concerts a little bit more like people won't feel like that there's a certain vibe when they get into a jazz concert that they gotta be.
yeah. It was a beautiful experience to see people really, that don't really listen to jazz all the time, just getting all in them.
That's
We
what
were
it's about.
laughing, but we all were like, wow, that was hip.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, man. So I think I want to ask you this question because you're someone that has played with so many people, are play key jazz messengers. Like
Mhm.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about that. But I think to cap that all off is like, what are like if you had to give like advice or tips to musicians in terms of how to be, a great sideman, or just how to be like a working musician and to
Yeah.
really make it out here, and to, what are the steps to doing that, and how to, kind of give yourself a chance to have that longevity, right?
Yeah. Well, there you go. You just said it. Give yourself a chance. You hear people say a lot now, um, oh man, they're getting ready to blow up.
Mm,
You've heard that, right?
yeah.
But what happens when things blow up? They're done. Boom. That's it. For me, blowing up is being able to work consistently throughout your whole career, which for me is my whole life. You know what I mean? I just say, my thing is just take your time and don't believe the hype. Don't believe the hype. The hype is the hype, and the hype is a false sense of reality, in my opinion. You know, um, yeah, people are always going to tell you, woo, 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 you woo, all of that. But I mean, you have to believe in yourself and believe that you really, when it's not really a woo moment. I do. I have to be honest with myself, man. I have to be completely honest with myself. That kind of keeps my ego in check by just being honest with myself. Just like, wait a minute, you know, really? Okay, I need to share that more before I try it, and not just like gloss it over because somebody thought it was, ooh, when I know personally that I didn't pull that off,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh yeah, the audience wouldn't know either way.
Yeah, they wouldn't know, but in your peers, they might know or they might not know. They might just like you enough to just not tell you the truth. you know,
Yeah.
One thing about Roy's band, we told each other the truth. One time Roy told me something that really pissed me off, but he was right. I cursed him out about it, but he was right. He's like, hey man, how come every time you play that bass line, you play it out of tune, Cannon? What pissed me off is he said it on a bus full of a whole bunch of people. And it really got pissed off, but I was like, I said, shut it, so I could play it in tune, you know. And of course, I went off on him and we were both laughing about it, but it was right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Honestly.
I knew deep down inside, every time I played that line, it was a dice roll of if I was going to play it in tune or not. So after he said that, I said, okay, I got to really shed this and get this line together, man, because I don't want to hear his mouth no more about this line, and he's right. So it's just honesty, man. And, you need, the way I look at it is like this, Gifted. You really have to keep your ego in check. Music it's about love and humility and a whole bunch of other good things, But I do think, that sometimes you need your ego to get you on the bandstand. You know what I mean? And then you need confidence to keep you on the bandstand. Once you get on that bandstand, you can put your ego in your pocket. I mean, the first gig I ever did with Elvin, we had no rehearsals. So I needed like to tell myself I'm a bad mofo and get up on it. And then once I got on there, I need to say, okay, now I got to play with some confidence. Same with McCoy, no rehearsal. You know? So I look at it like you need some ego, a little bit of it, you know? But once you get on the bandstand, then it's like love, man, and confidence and, you know, and humility. So you can be of service as far as the rhythm section. And as far as you're concerned, you're of service to your audience. So how you making them feel? They want to feel what you feel. You know, they want to like understand. They're curious as to why is he, man, I feel that. They're curious. You know, people, especially audiences that aren't really familiar with this style of music. They want to know, you know, and it's important that we're honest with them about what we're doing, you know, and about how we're, you know, yeah, you know, that's the beauty of music.
Yeah, man. I remember when we were playing in Chicago,
Mhm.
Billy Jones, and you took me aside and you told me about vulnerability, man, and
Yeah,
being vulnerable on stage. It makes me think about that when you talk about people want to feel you. I mean, you remember that?
yeah, that's the beauty of this. Man, it took me a long time to get used to being vulnerable and not trying to cover it up with a whole bunch of horse shit. Excuse my language. Is it okay to cuss on here?
Oh,
You know, I mean, really, not try to cover it up with some fast bullshit because I'm vulnerable, but to just like sit into that and let that take me to where I want to go. Because we're always vulnerable, man. We're human beings, you know. There's vulnerable times in our life. That's honest, you know. And one of the most vulnerable times that I used to run from, but now I look for that moment is sometimes playing solos on ballads. You know, it's like I'm trying to come from here, man. So that's like I'm kind of like, you know, opening up. And I used to think that, oh man, I got to play something to distract that. But I want people to feel what I'm feeling. Or else, why do it?
mm, mm,
You know, and it doesn't, you know, sometimes when you're being vulnerable and you play things, you might not play what you think you should play. You play something else and it's scary,
scary.
you know. It can be scary, but it can also be beautiful. And that's something that people need to feel. The chances that we take as artists and the openness and the vulnerability that we have to deal with, and that's a beautiful thing. It's nothing bad. It's beautiful, but they want to feel that and they should. Look at Roy on the ballot with that flugelhorn, man. Come on.
Yeah.
You could feel every ounce of heart and soul and love and whatever out of every note he played. He was just wide open with his
All right.
feelings,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, which a lot of people, it takes a long time to get to that point. Roy got to it, you know?
Yeah. No, man, I think that's a huge lesson that we all need to learn, and we all need to get to that side of ourselves. And I think it takes being comfortable with yourself,
Yeah,
and to get to that point where you're not afraid to take, risk, you know.
right.
It's like being naked, in front of
Yeah,
everybody. Like,
yeah, you are. That's what it is. I mean, you pretty much, you're opening up your soul to people,
yeah,
you know, in your heart and how you truly, if you're being honest with yourself, you're really opening up how you really feel right now, right at this moment, in present time.
You find that that's what truly connects, right?
Yeah,
That's what
yeah,
connects us as human beings, when
yeah,
we're real like that.
yeah, man. It took me a long time, not gonna lie, to like, I mean, last night I was playing it and it happened, it just happened. And, for a split second there, I was like, oh, well, then I was just like, no, man, this is it, let it go, bro,
Mm, mm.
let it go, trust.
Sometimes people think it's a technical thing in terms of to get them to the next level, but sometimes it could just be an approach, a mindset, right? Sometimes it
Right,
could be an approach to something that can completely change, your musical playing forever,
right.
right?
Well, that's where silence and space comes in. Without silence, there's no music. It's just all the time. There's no without, you know,
Yeah.
when we talk, we don't like go blah 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 blah. We talk, we listen, we comment, you know.
Yeah. It's a
Okay.
diverse.
Yeah, silence is space, silence is golden. That's true. Less is more. That is so much true. Took me a long time to figure that one out.
Hmm.
I mean, just I saw a thing about Gary Bartz was talking about um connecting melodies, and that's what it is. Melodies, melody. It's you know,
Yeah, man. I love that. I love that. It's got me thinking because in the shed we talk about the building blocks of music and we just try to build on that harmony,
yeah,
melody, and rhythm. And you think about melody being something where it's like layers of melody creates harmony, right? And
right.
then of melody, within a space of time has some level of rhythmic thing happening as well. So it
Right.
makes me think that like melody, man, has everything within it.
Yeah. Listen to Paul Chambers walking bass lines on like Miles Davis live at the Black Hawk, uh, on like like take for instance like the tune All of You on there. Paul plays in two through the whole thing. But the two feel is a connection of melodies, different inversions. And I mean, if you want to think of it that way, I just hear melodies. Whenever I hear his bass lines, I hear like a connection, like a Sam Jones, all of them, Ray Brown, Doug Watkins, Wilbur Ware, um, all of them,
Mm.
all the
Mm.
great bass players, Oscar Pettiford, of course, Jimmy Blanton, all of those guys, man. You just hear just melodic, just a continuance of melodies during their walking bass lines.
Mm.
You
Man,
know?
that's deep, man. Melody. Wow. It's interesting, man, because I loved where we went today, man. This was inspiring. You
Ah,
know, man, thank you so much, man.
thank you, Gifton. I
Man,
appreciate it.
I think people really need to hear this. Like, honestly, man, like this is gonna impact a lot of lives, and I do think that the whole goal is we do this interview and Q&A, and
Mm.
then once you come back, we obviously want to create workshops and things like that, and we monetize it, and
Right.
and make sure that you spending your time with us is worthwhile as well.
Yeah.
Um, but man, before we end it, man, I think you're one of the guys that, in terms of you connect your music recently too. I know Miles did this as well, but with visual arts
Yeah.
and how you paint, and you had like an exhibition where you kind of have like art paintings, and you also connect that with the music. What's your connection with that in terms of the visual arts and the sonic world? And yeah, where do you see that going?
I mean, for years, I've been painting just as long as I've been playing the bass. I studied art when I was at the conservatory. I've been painting this whole time. And I was doing shows and I just kept them separate. I just, for a lot of years, up until about maybe 15, 20 years ago. And still, a lot of musicians don't know that I'm a painter, you know. But you know, it's all the same thing. It's all related. You know, I'm an abstract expressionist painter, so I paint abstract. I don't know, man. You know, people ask me that all the time. It's the same thing, like creating bass lines for me.
Hmm.
And I guess, you know, it's really hard to explain that side of what I do, but it's all related. That I can tell you, you know.
Hmm.
Tell you a quick story. I was coming down the stairs with McCoy at the Blue Note. And this was probably a year or two before he passed. We're getting ready to go on stage, and he looked at me and said, "Hey, Gerald, they call it art, right?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "So let's go paint." You know,
Hmm. Yeah,
I'm thinking
yeah,
about the way he plays. It's like paintings and stories and epic, you know. I mean, so it's all the same. I used to, you know, I didn't like it because I used to tell me just say, you know, I'm a painter. He'd go, "Oh, like Miles Davis." I'm like, "No, like Gerald Cannon. I paint the way I paint, man. You know, I'm
yeah,
not Basquiat either. You know, I don't know." So I was I used to get offended by the comparisons a lot to other musicians that paint, you know. So I just kept it separate. But now it's just, it's get older. I'm 65. I don't care. You know? I paint, man. That's it. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I paint.
yeah,
I always have. You know, I get
yeah,
the same. Sometimes I get the same. You know, spiritual thing through a painting when it's done. I'm going through the same struggle every time I do a painting that I went through with music. It's on a canvas rather than life struggles. You
yeah.
know?
I think there's something special about, you know, the fact that music, you can't carry that, you know, with you. I guess a CD is the closest thing to that. Like you can't possess music, right? It's
Right,
something you can experience once and you never can experience it like that ever again. But I
right.
do think that like if we do, I mean, us as, you know, jazz, you know, musicians that come from that kind of like background where we're constantly creating in real time, I think
Mhm.
that if we start to create a connection to, you know, the art world as well, that can mean a lot for the music too, you know, and, you know, people
Definitely.
curious, you know, to, you know, carrying something that's not the actual music itself, but something that's connected to it in terms of how we express ourselves.
Right. We're all trying, it's the same. I'm just, you know, I'm trying to get my music out into the world as well as my paintings.
Yeah.
They're here, you know, I paint for, they're supposed to be out, you know.
Yeah, let's let's
So,
let's not let's make that something that uh can be something that's complementary to the experience, you know.
yeah, yeah.
That
You
way it could be like a form of memorabilia too, you know.
right, right. You know, and just, you know, look at my art and what do you see? Do you see
Yeah,
melodies? Do you feel, what do you feel? You know?
yeah.
Um,
Because
anyway,
it's like our minds, you know, is different from someone that's just strictly a painter compared to
right.
someone that has that connection to a musical expression as well. So there's some individuality there, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Some other stuff there for sure.
Yeah, man. So once again, man, thank you so much, man. It's been a pleasure having you, man. I look forward to having you again.
Yeah,
You know,
thank you, Gifted.
yeah, man.
By the way, man, I am so proud of you, man. Roy
Uh,
is looking down. He's very proud of you as well.
oh man, thank
Yeah,
you for saying that, man. I appreciate
yeah.
that. You know, it's just been time, you know, to start some things and create the community. You
Mhm.
know, create that bridge between the older generation and the younger generation. We need
Yeah,
more opportunities to
yeah,
share that knowledge, man, because that's kind of like what our music stands on. So,
right. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
um,
All right, Gifted.
hey,
Gotta go
brother.
take an old man's nap before the gig tonight.
I know. And have a good hit tonight, brother.
Thank you, man. Thanks so
Yes,
much, bro. Take
ready
care.
now.
God bless.
God bless you too, man.
All right, bro. Later.